Ah, ha. The end of 2024. Last pod of the year. Guys, presented by Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly when you deposit $5 and use the promo code. Welcome to Light Years. Tommy, I think we both had a sneaking suspicion Cleveland was going to be a shitty matchup. And you know what? They delivered. It was a fucking shitty game. Oh, man. I can't get too worked up over it right now. It's just it's annoying. The end 2024, 16-16. After what was one of the more fun games of the year, Phoenix, big win over Kevin Durant, huge defensive stop from Draymond. Kuminga looks like he's growing up. They come out here, they play one of the better teams in the league. They really don't even look on their level, period. And I think it's just kind of a perfect way to summarize who the Warriors are. They're just, the year of mid, the year of fucking mid.
You took the words out of my mouth. You know what I mean? Like tonight, that game, the fact they're 16-16, all of it is a perfect microcosm of where they are at this season and where they are at as a franchise. They're mid. It sucks to say, it sucks to admit. We can try to cope and lie to ourselves and give ourselves different reasons to why they're not. But at the end of the day, you got to face reality, and they're just kind of average. And we could take this a million different directions, but I want to say that the two games they've lost to Cleveland this year have been by a combined 60 points, and that's just two matchups. It just shows you where they're at. That they are not on the level of a Cleveland, of an OKC, of a Boston, a Dallas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So oddly, they match up well with Boston, but
they do.
Point stands. The point stands on that one. Yeah, and it's like I have a few thoughts from tonight's games. Not the loss isn't that big a deal to me. It's more like the overarching theme we see when they play better teams. Yeah. I'm gonna start with the first one, which is they were almost halfway through the year. They can't generate offense versus good teams. Period. When they got off to that hot start, I don't think we properly discussed just how fucking good they were defensively. Yeah. Like they were kind of the 12th best offense in the league. They were far and away the best defense in the league for the first 15 games. And that goes a long way. You don't need to shoot the ball or score amazing if you're just going to lock down like that. Now the defense has come down to earth. Still good, still very good. But you got like the 8th, 9th best defense, which is still very good. You see like how little offense they have, right?
They held Cleveland to 107 points tonight. Cleveland had scored over 120 in 7 straight games.
113. But they held Cleveland. Okay, that third quarter stretch was ugly. They played good defense. If there was any sort of offense, this game takes a different direction.
Yeah. So outside of those first 6 minutes of the third quarter, they were pretty damn good defensively. Mm-hmm. But part of the issue is when you stop making shots and you can't generate easy looks, your defense is going to suffer because of it. It's all connected. These things don't occur in a vacuum of any type. The fact that they're not making shots means the other team gets more transition opportunities. They get more opportunities off of misses. It's easier to score and to generate good looks when the opposing team can't set their defense. So, yeah, I wish I had.
Let me ask you this.
To come up with a solution.
Let me ask you this. We haven't really dived into it in the last, let's just say, a couple weeks. In your opinion, is it more a lack of shooting, a lack of dynamic playmaking, a lack of offensive creativity, play calling wise, or another thing? Like if I said forget the players, obviously the player is the most important thing, but if I was to ask you to diagnose where they're lacking juice, what's the first thing you'd start with?
I still think it's dynamic shot creation. I think dynamic shot creation is 1A, and I think shooting is 1B. So I'd say those are about even. to me. And that's why I think if you can get an elite player in either area, if you can get an elite shooter or you can get an elite dynamic shot creator, I think the roster looks a lot different. I think the team looks a lot different. I don't think they are one move away from a championship, but I think they are one move away from being a very good team, right? Like,
they get Jokic. Oh, maybe one move away, but I hear your point.
If we can convince Milwaukee to send us Giannis, sure. Then let's go win a championship. But yeah, I really do. Like, I've watched Chicago play a couple times this year, and I mean, Levine would be like such a great fit on this team for what they need, and that ship has probably sailed, but he's just one of a bunch of different options that they had this summer and they didn't capitalize on any of them. And now the chickens are coming home to roost, essentially.
I do agree with you in the sense of like, it would be nice if they had a guy who could really create an advantage in any capacity. And I think sometimes we overly complicate it by being like, oh, they need a shooter who can occupy the weak side corner to open the space up. They need a big who can roll hard. They need this. It's like, they kind of just need a guy who's actually fucking dominant at something, like someone who makes the defense actually reconsider sending 3 guys at Steph.
Right.
It could be a shooter. It could be a playmaker who's lightning quick off the bounce. It could be a roll man who's just a nightmare. Like, there's different ways it could go. It's all preferences at that point. But like, at some point, I'm just looking at this team, and it really is Steph and a bunch of role players. And by virtue of it being Steph and a bunch of role players, Steph is increasingly looking like a role player himself on top of it. And so my big thing is like, you can go get a flashy name, or you can go get someone, maybe, a little more hipster, like a Cam Johnson or something like that. They just need to get someone who does something that shows up number 2 on the scouting report. That's what I want to see more than anything. If they get Cam Johnson, I don't even know if he'll ever make an all-star game in the NBA. I guarantee you he will be number 2 on the scouting report for the Warriors, because that dude is one of the 5 to 7 best shooters in the NBA, right? Like, the scouting report will be, don't leave Steph, don't leave Cam, and then like everything will kind of be downstream from there, right? And I'm just using him as one example, but it could be that. It could be acquiring who else is available who's been rumored?
Miles Turner, Vucevic. Even though I'm not big on the Vooch thing, honestly. If we can, if we want to touch on that really quickly, I think
I don't really want to, but sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he I see people clamoring for him, and I do understand. Hey, he's a big guy who can score. Like, when was the last time this team had a guy like that?
It would be a nice piece to throw in the rotation.
Sure, but I just think you're gonna have to use about $20 million worth of salary to go get him, and that really minimizes the other type of moves you can make. Like, I don't think like Vooch is not as good as Cam. Number one, he cannot guard. Will not guard.
No, he won't. Like, I can tell you right now, Steve will never close a game with him. Not a game that mattered. Like, he might close pick a team. Like a Pelicans random regular season game. He's not closing a game that has stakes on the line with him.
Yeah, and this is going to sound strange considering what we just talked about, but I think he actually takes up like too much offensive oxygen. Like, they're going to have to essentially change their style of play to bring Vooch in a lot of ways, because like he's going to want a ton of touches. He's going to take a ton of shots, and like they do need scoring. Don't get me wrong, but I'd rather, like, if you're giving me kind of the option of like what to do, and it's not going to be a star, I'd rather go get Cam and then go get Valanciunas, because Valanciunas is better defensively, and he just doesn't. He's lower usage. And I think that's easier to integrate than a guy like Vooch, who's really going to cause concessions for the way you want to play basketball.
Yeah, and like my other thing is, and to be honest, I think I'd like Vooch on this team more than you. It would just be nice to have a big who can stretch the defense, who can make a pass, who can do some of the things he can do. But like, he's also not a player who's closing playoff games past the first round for any playoff team. Like, if he's in your closing lineup, you're not getting out of the first round, which is the Chicago Bulls, for example. Right. It's not. It's just, I don't know, guys. Watch playoff basketball. It devolves into mismatch hunting, and once you get to the final 8, they have a guy who can pick on your slow-footed big. Every one of them does. It doesn't matter. So, but I'm putting that aside. I really just want them to focus on getting a guy who can actually create an advantage in some
Sure.
capacity. And, people say Cam Johnson is not a big enough difference maker. And honestly, I probably agree, but it's a start. He does something at an elite level. And that's kind of the thing that annoys me with watching the Warriors. And we can talk about Cleveland in a minute. They just have a bunch of guys who are like solid, pretty good, kind of fill the gaps. At no point do they stand out in any way, for the most part.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. At no point are you like, I think Wiggins has probably been their second best offensive player most of the year. I don't think he wants to score 30 points in a game.
No.
I think he wants to be a 3-and-D role player. And I think that's fine. I think he might be the best 3-and-D role player in the league right now,
Yeah.
But he like absolutely wants to take his 12 shots a game, score 16, 20 if it's a good night, 10 if it's a bad night, right? And defend, right? Like that's what he wants to do. And then you go down the list, and you're like, okay, I'm sure Buddy Hield would like to score 30, but he's not that guy, or like Kuminga would like to score 30, but he's also not that guy. He can in some matchups, he can when he gets Miles Plumlee in a mismatch where he can take advantage of him. But then you go against Evan Mobley, an actual high level defender, and you see, there's levels to it, right? He's good, but he's not actually at that level.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you just watching Donovan Mitchell tonight, like what he did in that third quarter to start it. It's just like, God, I would love a guy who can just do that. And that's like part of my Levine point, right? It's like, it's basically just Steph or nobody. And if Steph, but like, Cleveland has obviously Mitchell, they have Garland who can do that. Mobley can do it in like a different way. Like Strus can get super hot from 3. Dean Wade could, like, you know what I mean? And there's just such a dearth of guys like that on this Warriors roster, especially with Buddy regressing to like being almost unplayable at times. I think he missed 2 layups.
And I'm sure the shot will come around. Like, has it occurred to you, at least on some level, that like flush December down the drain, there's a possibility, the shot will come and a couple players and they're just going to look better in January. Hopium, copium, whatever you want to call it at this point, right? Like, it's, I mean, I'm trying not to get overly prescriptive. I will say Ebony threw this in the chat, and like literally the most enjoyable part of the game tonight for me was Moses Moody.
Yeah.
It's good to see him healthy. He played with force. He was the best player for the Warriors tonight, probably. But it's just another one of those guys where it kind of fits in.
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine. And, the hope would have been he's, I guess, taken more steps offensively at this point in his career. He's a better shooter than he was when he came into the league, but like, has anything else in his game really grown that much since year one? It's tough to say because he's been yanked in and out of the rotation so much, but like,
I also think he's just kind of like, it's like Wiggins. It's a lot of their wings. Like he is a glue guy, he plays his ass off. He gets loose balls. He can absolutely help you win a game. There will be games where you're like, man, he got that extra rebound. He hit the floor. He got a ball. He hit a big shot. He made a couple plays like that. Like he is that kind of guy. I like having those type of guys on the team. He's not solving the overarching issue on the roster, which is like just having a guy who literally changes the scouting report, right?
Yeah. No, I mean he's like an Aaron Wiggins when they needed Jalen Williams. You know what? Like to compare it to OKC, right? Like Aaron Wiggins, solid player. Moses Moody, solid player. There's no Jalen Williams on this Warriors roster. And then
I like Aaron Wiggins. I watch him. I'm like, man, he'd be nice to the Warriors. And then like I watch it, I was like, is he really any different than what we got over here?
No, he's not. That's the thing.
It's like it's just trading one set of role players for another because you're in a bad mood because the ones you've been watching have been playing poorly.
Right.
And you see that team's guy play a little better, and then you lie to yourself. You're like, oh, he's a better player. It's like, nah, you just caught him on the right night.
Yep.
You just caught him on the right night.
Exactly.
I don't know. We know it. Like the leaks are coming out nonstop about how they're looking to add another player. It is what it is. We'll see. Before we get going, I just want to talk a little bit about our sponsor, guys. Tell a little bit about Prize Picks, guys. Prize Picks is the best place to get on real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars awarded in winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on 2 players with a shot to win up to 1,000x your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. I have a rule. I do not tweet out when I bet against the Warriors. It's a karma thing. Sorry. I just feel wrong about it. But I saw Cleveland on a schedule, and I know who Evan Mobley is. And I knew that Kuminga under was going to hit. So, I'm not publicly saying it, although I guess I am publicly saying it now. I wasn't going to put the bad juju out there. I was happy to be wrong, but I was like, you know what? If they're going to lose this one, I'm leaving here with something. So, I hit that Kuminga under. I won. And, that's how it goes. Guys, it's pretty simple. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So download the app, use the code LIGHTYEARS, get 50 instantly when you play your first $5. That's right. Code LIGHTYEARS, Prize Picks, run your game.
Right, and now it is time for Manscaped. With the holidays creeping up faster than your aunt's fruitcake recipe, I guess the holidays are actually almost over. It's terrifying to say, but I've got something way better to share with you. If you want to look sharp for all those festive gatherings and maybe finally win that Best Groomed Family Dinner award, check out the latest masterpiece from Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Trust me, it's like Rudolph for your face, guiding you to a smooth, irritation-free shave. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code LIGHTYEARS for 20% off plus free shipping. So, New Year's Eve tomorrow, one of the biggest nights for going out of the entire year. And the Chairman Pro is going to help me look sharp for tomorrow night because it has 2 interchangeable skin-safe blades. The 4-blade foil for when you want a smoother shave and the skin-safe stubble trimmer for when you want to keep some stubble but clean it up a bit. Both keep you sharp while minimizing razor burn and irritation because nobody wants to show up to that holiday party looking like they lost a fight with a Christmas tree. So get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use code LIGHTYEARS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus the free shipping when you use the code LIGHTYEARS at manscaped.com.
I feel like the Cleveland game makes me reminisce to the 2021 draft a little bit. Obviously the Kuminga Moody draft, the forever debated, they should have traded the picks. Blah, blah, blah. It's all in the past. I don't really give a shit anymore. That sort of thing. But I also remember the 2021 draft was kind of like hyped as this is a great draft. It's going to be a great draft. I think we're 4 years away. I think there's a lot of really good players who came out of that draft, but it is funny to look at it after the fact. And I'm not convinced there's anyone who's good enough to be the first option on a title team in this draft. Maybe not. But it does kind of point out to like how rare those guys are, in my opinion, where you're just like, when the draft's coming out, everyone's like, oh, there's like 6 franchise players in this draft. And like the reality is, honestly, there's a lot of really good players here. A lot of guys are going to make a lot of money. A lot of guys I would love on my team, but I don't know how many franchise guys are here. I don't know how many are like that. Anyway, Evan Mobley, is he like right now? Would you bet money he wins a Defensive Player of the Year before he retires?
Yes, well, it's tough, right? Because like the Wemby thing is just lingering over.
Right, the 8 depoys in a year he's gonna in a row.
Yeah,
he's gonna win.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think is Mobley that level of defender? I'd say so. And he keeps. I think the biggest thing with him this year is he's really taken strides in terms of like the level of force and physicality he plays with, and just the level of aggression. Like he's 18-10 this year, I want to say. Impact numbers have always been
3 to 4 assists, but also like it's just an eye test.
Yeah,
he was terrible offensively for most of this game, and I thought he was the best player on the floor.
Yeah, yep. No, he's one of those guys who can impact winning at a high level without really scoring the basketball. But you can't just be a non-threat, and you can't be somebody, especially when we're talking about playoff basketball. Like you can't just be somebody that defenses leave. So yeah, I loved him coming out. There was Mobley versus Wiseman debates. leading up to the 2021 draft. A lot of people in the Wiseman camp. I think we know how that turned out. But yeah, he's an excellent player. I wish he shot better than 30.
I'll pull up that Simpsons meme. He's already dead. Stop it.
Yeah, you should. I should just leave it alone. Yeah, I wish he shot better than 30% from three, and that might, just looking at the free throw numbers over the course of his career, that might not ever get much better, which definitely limits his ceiling a little bit. But maybe you develop a mid-range game. Maybe you get really good at like the Kevin Garnett pick and pop style shot. That shot is gone by the wayside in the modern league, but like guys have used and have been very effective. But he's an excellent player. I would like, if you're asking me if I would take him on the Warriors, I would in a heartbeat.
Tonight's Mobley game. It's not fully Draymond-esque, but it like kind of reminds me of that, where it's just like I don't think he played particularly well offensively, but if you watch the game, you're like, yeah, that was the best play on the floor. Pretty much. Still, he made every play that actually mattered. He turned the game. He got his teammates going. They won the game, and you look at the box, you're like, oh yeah, that is right. He missed some weird layups for no reason. But
how many layups did Kuminga, TJD, Wiggins miss? In large part because
who on the Warriors made a layup is a better question.
They made a couple to start, and then it was just like nobody made one for the rest of the night. It felt like they can, and it's not just Mobley in that sense. Like Jared Allen's a very good rim protector too, but they can just absolutely shut off the rim. And it makes it, especially for a team that struggles already like the Warriors do, if you're not able to generate like layups even on occasion, it's going to look uglier and uglier and uglier.
Actually, I want to bring this up, but like this game is actually the reason I would say to people why the Warriors always play small. You watch them against the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns were forced to play Plumlee a ton because Nurkic was out. And in general, they have like 3.5 good players. They don't have 5 good players, right? So what happens? Kuminga looks amazing because he's picking on Plumlee. Too fast, too strong, too quick, whatever, that sort of thing. Then you go against Cleveland, where their big man essentially moves like a wing. He's essentially a perimeter player, and that advantage is gone. And that's kind of why you play small. That's kind of why when all basketball gets to kind of like the final 8, final 4, it really is just about like how many guys do you have who can actually guard one-on-one? How many guys do you have who can't be picked on? You know this better than me, Tommy, but it's like the playoffs just evolve to small ball no matter what. And small ball is always just kind of like a stand-in term for like, can you guard on an island? So obviously you want as many like big guys who can do it. And Mobley's one of those guys. He's 7 feet tall, but he moves like a guard.
Yeah, it's really probably him, Chet, Wemby, like guys kind of 6'11", 7, sure. Bam, but like even Bam's a little bit shorter than those guys. But like if we're just talking wings or bigs who can move like wings, it's a very, very, very select number of guys. Like you can probably count them on one hand. AD's there, obviously, but it's a very limited number of guys. And Mobley's really been that since the moment he entered the league. It's just about, rounding out the other parts of your game. But yeah, he was outstanding tonight.
Would you take him number 1 in a redraft? I was for those watching on YouTube, I've pulled up the 2021 draft, but we can talk about it a little bit. I'm like I was saying, very good draft. Kuminga was in that draft. We can maybe do the redraft now, but it's one of those things. I'm curious, who'd you take number 1 in a redraft?
And just, I think it's funny that like all the, coming into a draft, if like there's a ton of hype about like this is one of the best drafts the past 5, 10, 15 years, it usually ends up being a good draft, but it's never as good as people expect. And then a draft like last year where they're like, this is the shittiest draft of all time, it usually ends up being a little bit better than people expect.
Right.
Like it always ends up somewhere in the middle. But that being said, this was still an excellent draft.
Could use some Jared McCann on the Warriors.
Man, I would take him in a heartbeat. But I think I would still take Cade number 1 overall. I've always been a huge Cade guy.
He's having a great year.
Yeah, I think month of December he was like 25 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds a game, and shooting like
they put a semi-competent team around him, and he looks like a franchise guy again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think he's shooting like 40%. He's shooting like 40% from 3, at least in the month of December he was, right? I'll definitely hear arguments like this isn't something where I'm like, oh my god, he has to like stay first overall. Where like if you do a Wemby redraft in 5 years, like and nothing like crazy happens, he's gonna go number one in that.
Yeah, I
redraft.
feel
You know what
pretty
I mean?
confident he's still getting redrafted number one.
Yeah, unless knock on wood, injuries hit or something like that. But yeah, I think I still go Cade number one overall. And do we just kind of want to like rank these guys until we get to Kuminga? Is that kind of
That's where I'm going at. So let
Yeah.
me give you my argument for Mobley number one overall.
Okay.
I'm not convinced any player in this draft is good enough to be the first option offensively. Like I love Cade. Suggs, also, like just good players up and down. Franz Wagner, great. Like all these guys are guys I would love on my team. Even Kuminga, I like having Kuminga on the Warriors. I want to keep him, that sort of thing. I'm not convinced there's actually a guy who's good enough to be a first option on a title team. And so if I rule that out, if I rule out that there's no Giannis, there's no Steph, there's no LeBron, there's no Jokic, that caliber of player, then I want who's going to be the best number two option you could possibly have. And I'm not convinced it's not Mobley, who essentially can be the foundation of a top-ranked defense at all times. And he's going to give you like 20, 10, and 5, So, like, is Cade a better offensive player than him? Yes. Is Cade potentially a better two-way player? Depends how you define it, maybe. But if Cade isn't good enough to be the actual driving force, like Luka Doncic, LeBron, Steph, whatever, of a title team, then give me Mobley every time, because I know that guy's going to foundationally, hold down your defense. So that's my argument. I don't even know if I believe it, to be honest with you, but I'm just I'm just fucking talking for the sake of it.
I think the issue you'd run into with Mobley being your quote unquote number two guy is I don't know if he'll ever score at that level. And with the way the CBA is moving with how bad the luxury tax penalties are, you're going to pay him max money. Like that's going to happen. Like there's not a world where he's ever not a max player. I don't think for his next two contracts. Mm-hmm. So that in mind, you're going to need a real offensive second option, and those guys cost money. So like, are you going to carry 3 max or near max contracts on a roster?
I guess I'm saying I'd rather have I'd rather pay Mobley max money, my shot creator max money, and see what I can do on a budget for that. Sure. Because what you're talking about is like, where are you getting another 20 points from?
Yeah,
that type of guy. But I don't know. These are good problems. I'd like to have these problems.
So. Yeah, and it's you can essentially guarantee that Mobley's going to hold down one side of the floor, and that's probably worth max money. Like as limited as Draymond has been on offense for a lot of his career, he's still maintained kind of like near max level impact because he is that dominant defensively.
Sure.
And Mobley obviously brings way more to the table offensively. I mean, at least in terms of scoring than Draymond really ever did. So yeah, I mean, I hear the argument. I still think I lean Cade, but I'm not.
Do we agree they're the top two, or is there someone else you want to throw in the hat?
Franz is for sure up there.
Okay.
Depending on how you feel about Şengün, yeah, I'd hear an argument for him. This might sound crazy. I'd hear an argument for Jalen Johnson. I love I wanted the Doors to take him so badly, like because he's
culture,
huge.
Not a culture fit, buddy.
God, he's huge. He can
score.
I
hear you.
Pass, he can rebound. Like he's 23, 11, and 6 this year. Or no, 23.
The Hawks have been the number one surprise for me because between him kind of putting it all together, and then Dyson Daniels like the perfect fit for that roster. They're very fun to watch.
Super fun
very good to watch.
Am I reading that correctly? Is he only 10 points a game this year? No, okay, that's not right.
Who are you talking about?
Jalen Johnson. Am I reading the
No, you're right. 19.9, but 20.
Okay.
10, 20, 10, and 5. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
yeah. No, he's outstanding.
I'm sure he'll score 23 next game and he'll get the average above 19.9.
Yeah. I'm definitely taking him over Kuminga. I just he's a way better decision maker, ball handler, bigger, better defender. But those are like really the 4 or 5 that I think have an argument for going one in a redraft. And then it's a I mean, God, I'd hear Suggs too, but he's different. Like that's more of like I don't think he's going one. Like he's at the top of that next tier, but I mean, he's obviously excellent and one of the most fun players in the league to watch, in my opinion.
All right, so I mean, I might hear arguments for Jalen Johnson going 1 overall, but all right. So these are the players for sure in that top tier: Cade, Mobley, Franz. Goes without saying. His all-star trajectory before the injury.
Yeah.
Jalen Johnson having a phenomenal year. Scotty Barnes?
Yeah, Scotty. I think Scotty is definitely a shout you got to give. But my thing with Scotty is like, I just don't think
they're
he's
a
ever gonna
terrible
shoot
team.
it. They're awful, and then, like, I think he needs the ball too much because of the lack of shooting. Like, I really like him as a player, but I don't think I'm not sure if he can ever be a number 2 because of what his skill set is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he can ever be a
Sure.
number 1 option on a title team, and because of what the skill set is, I don't know if he can really fit as a number 2 in most contexts. I think he'd have to be very, very specific the situation he works in. I think he's a little bit less malleable than a lot of these other guys, which is funny considering he was like kind of during the draft season, he was like kind of lauded as like this versatile, malleable, one size fits all piece. And maybe that's probably his best destiny is like playing more like Draymond. You know what I mean? Like a supercharged version of that on offense.
Sure.
But I like him.
Where's Kuminga?
Where's
Kuminga fit into this? I mean, I'm taking. We haven't mentioned Jalen Green.
No, we have. God, I hate Jalen Green. He stinks. Like, don't come at me with that. He's awful. He was. I would.
It's not even, I would take Kuminga over Jalen Green. It's a lot of the same question marks.
I would too.
But he's bigger, faster, stronger. And honestly, like, no matter what you think of how Kerr has kind of been hard on him, I'm still more optimistic on Kuminga going through that level of coaching than Jalen Green, who's been, kind of given the do whatever you want and lean into all your bad habits coaching.
Yep. Yeah, at least until Ime got there. That's for sure what it was. I never understood him at number 2 overall. He's a 6'3", incredibly skinny guard. Well, yeah,
he's 6'5". He's not 6'3".
Okay, but he's incredibly skinny. The defense, I never really believed that he was going to be any type of impactful defender. The passing has never been anything to write home about. And if you're, I have a hard time, unless you're like a Clay level shooter, I have a hard time believing in number 2 options who can't really pass the basketball. Like, I just don't like one of my primary creators not being a good passer, and Jalen will never be a good passer.
Well, it's just if you need the ball in your hands to be effective, but you can't make a decision, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to figure out. So
yeah.
I
think Kuminga's definitely at the I'd say he's definitely at the top of that second tier, right? Like I think it'd be like him, Suggs. I guess Jalen Green's in there. I'll begrudgingly throw him in. Trey Murphy. He can't stay healthy, but I think he's in that second tier of guys. And then it's probably another step down after that, I'd say, if we're just looking at these kind of top 20.
Yeah. I mean, it is a good draft. Like, I don't want to, like...
Oh, it's a very good draft.
I would not be surprised if Kuminga took a leap and ended up making an all-star team at some point, or Trey Murphy at the same point. Like, it... And that's... Because I think at this point, Cade will, Mobley will, Franz will. He's injured. He's not going to make it this year. Like, there might be 7 or 8 guys on this draft who make an all-star team, which is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
Pretty damn impressive, even if I'm not sure any of them could be the best player in a title team. That's a damn good draft.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat's mentioning Herb Jones is in this draft as well. Like, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
nice
multiple players. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Really nice player.
Yeah.
Should we do some body spec?
We should do some body spec. Let me get to that real quick, guys. Guys, the new year is here. And with it comes a perfect opportunity to build a strong foundation for your fitness journey. If you're ready to hit 2025 with a plan that is backed by real data, Body Spec is here to help. Starting strong means knowing where you stand. And that's what a DEXA scan at Body Spec is the smartest way to kick off your resolutions. With a DEXA scan, you get an accurate, detailed look at your body's composition. So lean muscle mass, fat, bone density, so you can set clear goals and track your progress. No more guessing, no more relying on outdated methods. Look, we've all eaten a little too much cake and cookies during the holidays, and now we're trying to figure out
Oh
how
my
we can
God.
undo
I've gained at
all
least
those
5 pounds.
December decisions. What?
So I've gained at least 5 pounds over the holidays, minimum.
Nice. Yeah. No comment. Anyway, right now we got the best deal you'll find online. Only $45. Code LightYears45. That's right, $45 to get a complete science-backed snapshot of your health and fitness, all at the touch of a button. Last year, you probably tried sticking to a workout plan and even signed up for a healthy meal delivery service. But have you ever stopped to ask, what's really going on with my body? Without a DEXA scan, you don't really have the full picture. You don't want to waste another year guessing if your efforts are paying off. You're literally shooting in the dark if you don't know exactly what's going on under the hood. Guys, pretty simple. Go to buyspec.com, use code LightYears45, take a step towards your best year yet.
Oh, man, it's perfect time of year to get that done. Perfect time to get your body checked out, get the body composition and everything. Maybe not the best time right after the holidays, but yeah.
Yeah, but sign up for it right after holidays, and then when you've kind of worked off the hangover and it's January 8th, then get the scan.
Yeah, there you go.
Scan.
That's the plan right there.
So that's the plan right there. Can I ask you a question? How worried are you about Steph?
We've touched on this a couple times over the last week or so.
It's just like I don't want to lead with it all the time. Some of that's just bias. But the other part of it is like, look, man, they're just generally like a malaise type of team, right? But like, it's dishonest to be like, he doesn't look particularly great. We can talk about how they're guarding him all you want, but another like non-performance for Steph. Like, who gives a fuck about the numbers? The eyes will tell you everything you know. He didn't really get into it, and it didn't really matter.
I will have legitimate concern if they make a trade to improve this roster and he still looks like this. Again, I do think I don't know if like quiet quitting is the right term, but he is disinterested. I think he's never really been the type of guy to like quit on a season, I guess. Like that's never really been his MO, but he's also 36. I think he's tired of this shit. And unless he really he believes this team can go somewhere, then I don't think we're going to get 100% of his effort. Like he's not going to put his body on the line like that anymore for a team that's going to right now not even potentially make the play in. Like what's the point of that? You might as well just kind of like ride off into the sunset. Like we'll get a Dallas Mavericks early season game like that every once in a while. Like we'll get 38 points against the Lakers. We'll get those performances still. Like those aren't gone yet. You know what I mean? But like he hasn't scored 40 points in probably over a year at this point. We're probably right around a year. He hasn't had a 40-point game. So
we talk about him scoring 30 the way we used to talk about him scoring 40.
Yeah.
Which is the definition of like, it's not the same, It used to be 30 was in his sleep, and then 40 plus, you're like,
yeah.
Right. Now it's like 15 to 20 in his sleep, and 30 gets you going a little bit. And I agree with you. Like, no energy. It's kind of like when the third quarter started, you could see Steph being like, all right, let's pack it in. I'm done.
Yeah. And I think the real regression is more like his paint finishing. You know what I mean? But like we've seen him do that in games where like he decides to. Essentially, you're just not going to get that during the regular season. I still think he could do it enough in the playoffs. But I mean, he got 11 threes off tonight. Like he's not struggling to get his looks. And most of those were not bad looks. Like I thought most of them were, even for Steph, like quality looks against one of the better defensive teams in the league. Like he can still exploit mismatches. He can still like when a big gets switched on to him, like for the most part, like Allen and Mobley are both very mobile. He did not struggle to like create clean looks against them. So I'll be more concerned, or like it'll become like a DEFCON 1 situation when like number one, he can't create those looks against the switch. And number two, when they're an actual competitive, serious basketball team, and then he can't get to the level that's needed most of the time, say 75% of the time or whatever. That's when I would actually have genuine concern. As of right now, I'm just in wait and see mode. I could see this being real, and this is just who he is from now on, and that would be sad. But he's given us so many years of greatness. It's hard to get mad at anything that he does at this point. But I'm in wait and see mode with Steph.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel very LeBronish. Like it's just kind of like the passive aggressive. I don't feel like asserting myself type of stuff. And because his game is different, it looks different. Like for Steph, when you get these games, it's like, oh, you're just gonna run around, set screens off ball, and not touch the ball at all, And people are gonna freak out and blame Steve Kerr and all that sort of stuff. When I was just like, this kind of Steph's way of kind of silent protesting and kind of like preserving energy and doing all those things, right? So
yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be a boring Steph game when number one, his first 2 threes went in and out, got great looks, they went in and out, and then I want to say 4 times in the first 6 minutes, Kalena or Fitz was like, "Oh, what a great screen by Steph." It's like, okay, he's not locked in tonight. He's doing some cardio out there. So it is what it is.
He's just like you and me. He's just trying to maintain through the holidays to get back into shape after January.
Look,
guys, buyspec.com, promo code LightYears45.
No, I mean he it's Jesus. It's still close to Jesus' birthday. He can't he can't go all out. His focus is in other places right now. But I mean it's funny. He's always struggled in the month of December, and I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to that, or if it's just happenstance, but it's like been a thing for about 10 years now.
No, it is, yeah.
Yeah, like it's a real thing. It's his worst month by far.
You get a lot of tour dates in December.
A lot of tour dates. So, let's see what happens in January. Let's see if they can right the ship. Let's see if they make a trade. The things that we've talked about for years now. But
we'll end with Paratosh's question here. He goes, genuine question, just to let us know he's not trolling. Is Curry ever going to say enough is enough with this front office? And if not, why should I feel sorry for him? Can I take this one?
Go ahead.
I think the front office is aware of where he stands. I think he's pretty complicit in this whole thing. I don't think they're acting in protest of him. I don't think Steph is like knocking at Dunleavy and Lacob's door saying, get me some help. And they're like, no, we're paying you 60 mil. Go score. I don't think that's what's happening. Now, competency is a different question, but I do think they are all on the same page. They're attempting to make a move for him. Again, will they pull it off? It's a different question. I don't know where I land on that one, but I think the reason Steph is not more vociferous, or like whatever the word you want to use, like kind of like what we associate with like LeBron with passive aggressiveness, is because he has a direct line of communication with the team. And I don't know, maybe that changes. Maybe that changes going forward, but like it clearly, to me, it's pretty clear the strategy is I'm going to try to do my shit behind the scenes because I think it will be more beneficial for me long term.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a question that like we've bounced around the Discord a little bit, is like, how complicit is Steph in all of this? And like I would say signing extensions when he did probably, hurt the amount of pressure that not necessarily he could apply, but like the amount of just natural pressure, right? Like he's always signed his extensions a year early. He's never pushed it to free agency. And I guess I understand why he's done that, but it's not like the money wasn't going to come either way. You're protecting against injury, and like there are other factors that play into it. But if
you also send a message of stability. Like let me
Sure.
be in Steph's head. If you want to convince people to come here, you have to be completely relaxed and be like, guys, I'm not leaving.
Right.
Like, this is a good organization. I'm good here. You're going to want to come here. Whereas if you're doing the LeBron thing, I mean, at the lake, well, LA's LA, but like it's always kind of like, do I go there? Oh, it's so uncomfortable, that sort of thing. So
right.
I don't actually know that either side is necessarily better than the other, because it seems like it's leading to the same results.
Right.
But it is a different strategy.
Yeah. No, it's a 6-1, half dozen the other. But like at the end of the day, he can only do so much. He's never gonna request a trade from the Warriors. Like that day has come and gone. If that was gonna happen, it would have happened a couple years ago. Right. Like that's never happening. And he's never gonna be publicly vocal against the franchise. I think we've gotten a couple more hints of it over the last year or so, but he's never just going to be like, trade me, make a trade, or I'm gone. Like it's just not who he is. So it's expecting
Too late in the career.
Right. Absolutely. That would have had to happen 2 or 3 years ago. And it's just, that'll never be who Steph is. That's just not the type of dude he is.
No, and it might work out for him. It might work out for him at this deadline. I do get the sense, I mean, he said it publicly, but I do get the sense that like there is a clock on this. There's a level of, if you're not going to go all in at some point, like what are we doing here? So we'll see. We'll see where it lands. They're going to make a move at the deadline. We'll see if it's a good move or if it's, a disappointing move. But
I'm going to leave it there.
I mean, that's a move.
Yeah.
It's not the move I want to talk about. I'll tell you that.
Yep.
It is a move. It is action.
Totally.
All right, we'll leave it here. Everyone, 16-16. Have a mid New Year's. We will be back.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.